Sure.
No disrespect.
No, not at all.
A straight answer.
Absolutely.
I kind of like two things: breakfast food and straight answers.
I love them.
And if a robot is feeding me information and I don't know it's a robot, am I entitled to know it's a robot as a consumer? Pretty straight up.
Yeah, I think the answer is yes. Okay.
All right.
In a lot of
start back with Mr. Dowley. Am I entitled to know who owns that robot?
Welcome back to Right View Nation, the only channel unafraid to call out the deep tech deception that's creeping into every corner of our American life. If you love freedom, if you believe in truth, and if you're tired of being lied to by both the government and big tech overlords, then buckle up, because today's episode is going to blow the lid off one of the most dangerous trends we've ever seen: artificial intelligence, and the elites who don't want you to know when it's manipulating you. Folks, let's get one thing straight. We're entering a new era. One where machines can create video, audio, images, and even full-blown speeches that look real, but aren't. And the worst part, they don't want you to know. Senator John Kennedy, God bless him, is asking the hard questions the mainstream media runs from. Questions like, should Americans be told when content is generated by a robot? You'd think the answer would be a big, fat, obvious yes. But guess what? The so-called experts in this hearing couldn't give a straight answer. They hemmed, they hawed, they danced around the truth like it was radioactive. Because here's what they don't want you to realize. Backhand index pointing right, if you don't know what's real anymore, they can control everything. From political ads to news stories to deepfake videos that smear patriots and glorify corrupt politicians. AI is the perfect tool for propaganda. And these people know it. Now listen to this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for calling this hearing. Mr. Dowley, am I saying your name correctly, sir?
That's correct.
Yes. Mr. Dowley, if I am a recipient of content created by generative AI, do you think I should have a right to know that that content was generated by a robot?
Yes, I think you do. I think the details would depend on the context, but in most cases, I think, okay. I or anybody else, if I receive something, I'd like to know, is this real or was this generated?
Mr. Smith?
Generally, yes. What I would say is, if you're listening to an audio, if you're watching a video, if you're seeing an image and it was generated by AI, I think people have a right to know. The one area where I think there's a nuance is if you're using AI to, say, help you write something. Maybe it's helping you write the first draft. Just as I don't think any of us would say that when our staff helps us write something, we're obliged to give the speech and say, now I'm going to read the paragraph that my staff wrote. You make it your own. And I think the written word is a little more complex, so we need to think that through. But as a broad principle, I agree with that principle.
Professor?
There are situations where you probably wouldn't expect to be dealing with the product of generative AI, and in those instances...
Well, that's the problem.
Right. But as times change, it's possible that our expectations change, and so...
but as a principle, do you think that people should have a right to know when they're being fed content from generative AI?
I tell my students, it depends on the context. Generally speaking, if you're vulnerable to generative AI, then the answer is absolutely yes.
What do you mean if you're vulnerable?
So there may be situations...
I'm just looking for...
Sure.
No disrespect.
No, not at all.
A straight answer.
Absolutely.
I kind of like two things: breakfast food and straight answers.
I love them.
And if a robot is feeding me information and I don't know it's a robot, am I entitled to know it's a robot as a consumer? Pretty straight up.
Yeah, I think the answer is yes. Okay.
All right.
In a lot of
start back with Mr. Dowley. Am I entitled to know who owns that robot? And where that content came from, I know it came from a robot, but somebody had to goose the robot to make it give me that content. Am I entitled as a consumer to know who owns the robot?
I think that's a harder question that depends on the particular context. I think, if somebody is feeding me a video and it's been identified as being generated by AI, I now know that it's generated, it's not real. If it's being used, for example, in a political campaign, then I would want to know who
But let me stop you.
informed it.
Let's suppose I'm looking at a video and it was generated by a robot. Would it make any difference to you whether that robot was owned by, let's say, President Biden or President Trump? Don't you want to know in evaluating the content who owns the robot and who prompted it to give you this information?
I would probably want to know that. I don't know that I would feel it would be required for me to know that.
How about you, Mr. Smith?
I'm generally a believer in letting people know not only that it's generated by a computer, but who owns the program that's doing it. The only qualification I would offer, and it's something you all should think about and would know better than me, there are certain areas in political speech where one has to decide whether you want people to act with anonymity. The Federalist Papers were first published under a pseudonym. And I think in the world today, I'd rather have everybody know who's speaking.
Okay,
But you should think about it.
Professor?
I'm afraid I'm going to disappoint you again, Senator, with a not straight answer, but I agree.
How do you feel about breakfast food?
Right. I am pro-breakfast food.
Okay.
So we agree on that. I agree with Mr. Smith. I think that there are circumstances where you'd want to preserve anonymous speech, and there are some where you absolutely would want to know who.
Okay. Well, I'm not. I don't want to go too over. Obviously, this is an important subject, and the extent to which I think. Let me rephrase that. The extent of most senators' knowledge in terms of the nuances of AI. Their general impression is that AI has extraordinary potential to make our lives better if it doesn't make our lives worse first. And that's about the extent of it. In my judgment, we're not nearly ready to be able to craft a bill that looks like somebody designed it on purpose. I think we're more likely to take baby steps. And I ask you those questions predictably because Senator Schatz and I have a bill. It's very simple. It says if you own a robot that's going to spit out artificial content to consumers, consumers have the right to know that it was generated by a robot and who owns the robot. And I think that's a good place to start. But again, I want to thank my colleagues here, my chair and my ranking member. They know a lot about this subject, and I want to hear their questions too. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy. On behalf of the chairman, we're going to start a second round.
Senator Kennedy asked another powerful question. Should I have the right to know who owns the robot feeding me content? Simple, right? But again, no straight answers. Why? Because if you knew the robot was being controlled by the Biden administration, by George Soros's NGOs, or by Silicon Valley leftists, you'd stop trusting the narrative. They don't want that. They want you docile, confused, drowning in a sea of digital lies so you can't tell up from down. And they call it progress. Let's be real. AI isn't just about making your life easier. It's about consolidating power. The same people who censored you on Twitter, who shadow-banned conservatives, who rigged search results to favor leftist garbage, now want to control what you see, hear, and believe through robots. Let that sink in. Senator Kennedy brought up something else that hits hard. Imagine watching a powerful video that sways your opinion, only to find out it was entirely fake. And not only that, it was generated by a robot owned by Joe Biden's re-election campaign or a Chinese Communist front group. Wouldn't you want to know that? Of course you would, because context matters. But the elites don't want transparency. They want to blur the lines between fact and fiction. That's how tyranny grows, not with guns, but with silence, secrecy, and synthetic truth. This is a digital Trojan horse. They're feeding us content without disclosing who wrote the script. It's a war on reality, and you are the target. Here's what we need to do, patriots. First, demand transparency. Support leaders like Senator Kennedy who are pushing bills that say, if a robot made it, you must tell us. And tell us who made it. Second, never trust content at face value anymore. Question everything. AI-generated videos and articles are flooding the internet, and they are designed to manipulate you emotionally. Third, spread the word. Share this video. Tell your family. Talk to your kids, because they're the most vulnerable. Schools are already pushing AI-written textbooks and robot tutors. If we don't draw the line now, there won't be a line left to draw. Look, America has faced enemies before, foreign and domestic. But this is a new battlefield, one where truth is the casualty and deception is the weapon of choice. And our job, your job, is to fight back. With our voices, with our votes, with our vigilance. If you're not okay with being lied to by a machine, if you believe we the people have the right to know the truth, then hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video with everyone you know. This is Right View Nation, and we are unapologetically American. We love our country, we love truth, and we will never bow to a digital dictatorship. Until next time, stay loud, stay proud, and stay free.